They offered me $30 an hour to work the night shift at a gas station in the middle of the desert. The only catch I had to follow 3 rules. I broke one, and something came to feed. There's a reason why nobody stays longer than a week at the Coyote Fuel and Go. It looks like your average roadside gas station, flickering neon sign, old school cash register, maybe a raccoon or two in the trash bins. But this place is older than the highway it sits on, older than the town it pretends to serve. And the things it feeds, they don't run on gasoline. My name's Miguel Reyes, but everyone calls me Migs. A month ago, I was broke out of work, and one mistake away from losing my little brother for good. When I saw that job post online, 30 HR graveyard shift, isolated location, immediate start, I didn't ask questions. I packed my bag and drove out there, and that's where everything started to go wrong. This is the true story of my 7 nights alone at a gas station buried deep in the Navajo desert, a place cursed by ancient deals, guarded by bone-made pumps, and haunted by rules you were never meant to question. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything. The 3 rules, the payphone that rang with my dead mother's voice, the shadow with antlers, and why on my final night, I had to burn it all. If you've ever worked the night shift and felt like you weren't alone, this story is for you. Because the desert doesn't forget. And if you listen closely, it still remembers my name. Coyote Fuel and Go isn't just a gas station, it's a mouth. And every few nights, it opens. They told me it was just a job. $30 an hour. Midnight shift. No boss breathing down your neck. Just monitor the register, authorize a few gas pumps, and enjoy the silence of the Arizona desert. I should have known it was bait. From the second I pulled into that gravel lot, something felt wrong. Not bad, just off. Like the desert was watching me back. The sign above the station blinked Coyote Fuel and Go. But the coyote didn't blink. Its eyes stayed lit while the rest of the neon died. A little detail. But it stuck with me. The place didn't have customers. It had visitors. And those weren't regular gas pumps. They were teeth. Let's talk about what this place really was. From the outside, Coyote Fuel and Go looks like your standard pit stop. Dusty shelves, jerky that expired 3 owners ago, and a coffee machine that's probably brewing tetanus. But beneath the surface, literally beneath, was a structure older than the building, older than Route 160, maybe older than the Navajo sand it's buried in. You see, the station sits at a point where the boundaries between our world and something else have worn thin. Some call it a veil, others call it burial ground, but Hank just called it the agreement, the truce that bled. According to what I later pieced together generations ago, long before there was a road, a man made a deal with things that roamed the desert at night. They weren't spirits. They weren't animals. They were skinwalkers, shape-shifting remnants of twisted intent, who fed not on meat, but on essence, energy, identity. And like most monsters, they were hungry. So the deal was made. A space would be built above their burial site. A place that brought in blood quietly. Not sacrifices all at once, but small leaks like a siphon. A few drops from each customer. A little life force every time someone filled up their tank. The gas station wasn't there to serve travelers. It was there to drain them. And the man who made that deal, he didn't just run the station. He became its keeper. The pumps weren't mechanical. They were conduits like straw shoved into a sleeping god. And every time they activated, the others drank. The pumps that breathe. One night after I started working there, I stayed outside a little longer than usual. It was 2:41 a.m. The stars were clearer than ever and totally silent. I leaned against pump 4. It was warm. I remember thinking, why is it warm? It hasn't been used in hours. Then it pulsed. No engine, no vibration. Just a single slow thump like something exhaling through concrete and steel. I swear to God it breathed. And I didn't imagine it. Because when I went back inside, I found wet footprints on the floor. But no one had come in. That's when it hit me. This place isn't haunted. It's alive. Hank's legacy. Hank wasn't just the owner. He was the successor to the first keeper, the one who built the original truce. His job wasn't customer service. It was containment. The rules he gave me weren't guidelines. They were rituals. No jerky for yellow eyes. Don't feed the ones who are already partway through. Play track 3 if black fluid leaks. The chant forces the essence to recede. Never answer the phone. The phone rings from their side when the veil is thin. He knew what this place was. And when I asked why he never left, he said, "You can't just walk away from something that remembers your bloodline." The mouth, beneath the sand. Here's what I now believe underneath Coyote Fuel and Go, buried in the rock and bone and forgotten sin, is something huge. Something sleeping. The gas pumps are just its tongue. The station, its teeth. The visitors who come at night, they're its breath, checking if the prey is ripe yet. And every 7 nights it needs more than a sip. It needs a body. That's why I was brought in. That's why the pay was so high. Because I wasn't being hired. I was being delivered. Punchline that won't leave my head. You want the part that haunts me the most. It's not the shadow with antlers. It's not the woman whose smile didn't end. It's not even the phone that knew what I did to my brother. It's this: I wasn't the first, but I might have been the last. Because I did something they didn't expect. I asked questions. I connected the dots. I fought back. And when I burned the pumps, when I lit that final match, I swear the desert screamed. Not in pain, but in disappointment. If you're driving through Arizona and you see a lone gas station with a broken neon coyote out front, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't slow down. And whatever you do, don't take the night shift. Because even after all that fire, after all the bones I left behind, something out there is still waiting for someone to open that door again. And it remembers me. By name. You know what's worse than realizing you're trapped? Realizing you were never supposed to get out. They didn't hire me to man a register. They didn't bring me in to run a graveyard shift. They brought me in to replace the bones buried under the floor. This wasn't a job. It was a countdown. And I wasn't the employee. I was the offering. There's a reason nobody talks about the last guy who worked nights. A reason the locals avoid even glancing at the gas station when they drive past. Because that's part of the ritual. The keeper doesn't resign. He disappears. Slowly. Quietly. Folded into the desert like a spilled secret. Hank didn't hire me because I was qualified. He picked me because I was ripe. A strong heart. A soul soaked in guilt. A man with no future and nothing to lose. I was a perfect storm. No college. Just a GED and a criminal record. My only family was a brother struggling through rehab and the memory of a mother who died 6 years ago. I was broken in all the right ways. And Hank saw that from the first day. He asked weird questions. Ever taste guilt in your sleep? Ever hear whispers coming from a locked mirror? Think about what kind of footprints a soul leaves when it bleeds out slow. On the 3rd night, I started dreaming. A door made of ribs. A desert sky with stars that blinked like eyes. I'd wake up with red sand on my sleeves and dust under my nails. At first I thought it was sleepwalking. But no. I was being summoned. And Hank knew. He didn't stop me. He watched. Like a shepherd waiting for the lamb to step off the path. On night 4, the payphone rang again. I didn't answer. But I heard a voice anyway. My mother's voice. Singing to me. Whispering my name. My real name. Not Migs. The one I hadn't heard since I was a child. I collapsed in the booth, shaking. When I looked up, Hank was outside smiling. Like it was all falling into place. That's when I understood. This wasn't a job. It was a grooming. The rules weren't meant to protect me. They were filters. A test. The yellow-eyed woman. The black fluid. The voice on the phone. Each one asking the same question. Will you run, or will you obey? Most clerks fail. They panic. They die. But me, I followed the rules. I listened. I survived. And that made me perfect. I wasn't meant to be a sacrifice. I was meant to be the next Hank. The keeper. The one who feeds the desert just enough to keep it asleep. Not too much. Just a taste. A whisper of blood. A breath of fear. If I refused, I'd be offered anyway. Tied to the bone pump like those who came before. That's why Hank kept the chains. That's why the knife had a bone handle. That's why the back room smelled like old meat and regret. By night 6, I understood everything. The job didn't need a resume. It needed a soul it could crush slow, a man it could hollow out and fill with dust, a body it could wear until it rotted through. The keeper doesn't live. He decays slowly, with a name no one remembers, and a duty that feels like breathing fire every night you lock the doors. I wasn't supposed to last, but I did, and the desert took notice. It whispered my name under the pumps. It watched me through the mirrors. It tasted me every time I let a stranger fuel their car. The moment I stopped asking why, and started asking when I was already halfway gone, and Hank, he didn't need to convince me. The land already had. If you're watching this and you've ever seen a flickering coyote sign in the distance, don't stop. Don't slow down. Because if the desert wants you, it remembers. And it always gets what it wants, eventually. The seventh night wasn't supposed to come. I kept telling myself that I'd quit after 6. Take the bonus, take the silence, run. But some places don't let you run. They follow. I pulled into the gravel lot of Coyote Fuel and Go headlights slicing through the dark like a blade through meat. The station looked different. The lights didn't flicker. They pulsed, like a heartbeat. Hank's truck was already parked, which was wrong. He never showed up before dawn. Something was waiting. Not just Hank, not just the station. The land itself felt expectant, like it knew what time it was. Feeding time. I stepped out. The air didn't move. There was no wind, no sound. Even the insects had stopped humming. I walked into the store, but the bell didn't jingle. It hung still like it was afraid to make noise. The fridges weren't humming. The boombox wasn't playing. The clock ticked, but slower than usual, like time was dragging its feet. I called out. Hank didn't answer. But I heard my name. Migs, echoing from the back. Like it had been waiting in the dark too long and had learned how to say it wrong. I walked into the stockroom. Hank stood at the far end, hunched over the table. His hair was loose, his eyes were bloodshot. And on the table, a figurine made of clay shaped like a coyote, covered in symbols I'd seen in my nightmares. Beside it, a knife with a bone handle, the blade still wet with something dark and clotted. Hank turned. His face was calm. "Right on time," he said. His voice was gentle, like a man welcoming a lamb to slaughter. I asked him what was going on. He told me I was ready, that the pumps didn't take gas, that they were conduits for something older, something beneath, something that needed blood to sleep. I tried to run. He grabbed me. His strength wasn't human. His hands burned where they touched me. He dragged me through the back door. But the door didn't lead to the alley. It led to a place I'd never seen before. Red rock cliffs circled a clearing under a full moon. In the center were 4 gas pumps stripped of their casings. What remained weren't machines. They were bones, massive, yellowed, carved with those same symbols. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. Hank chained me to the pump, the same one that had leaked black fluid. Pump 4. He told me about the deal his ancestors made. The Yazis. They had built the station to mask the feeding site. A perfect trap. A modern disguise. Every tank filled, every soda bought, every step across the linoleum, all part of the offering. But now, people didn't stop. They paid at the pump. They moved too fast. So the spirits grew hungry again. They needed more. They needed a heart. A keeper. Or a sacrifice. "You're both," Hank whispered. "You're the bridge. The offering. The flame." He stepped back. Shadows gathered beyond the rocks. Dozens of yellow eyes blinked open, floating in the dark. My body froze. My mind screamed. Then something shifted. A voice. Not Hank's. Not the spirit's. My own. Clear. Loud. "Burn it all." I remembered the tools in Hank's truck. I remembered I was a mechanic before I was anything else. When he leaned closer, I swung the tire iron. It hit his temple with a wet crack. He collapsed, stunned. I ripped the keys from his belt. One key wasn't metal. It was clay. A token. A miniature version of the coyote statue. The same symbols. The same curse. The anchor. I didn't stop to think. I ran. The spirits shrieked behind me. Not human. Not animal. Something between. I reached the truck. Locked the doors. Tried the ignition. Nothing. Battery was dead. I hot-wired the relay under the dash. The engine coughed to life. I floored it. I drove into the desert, no road, no direction. The eyes faded behind me. The screams grew fainter. Then I saw it. The station. Again. Ahead of me. Glowing. Waiting. I had driven away, but it was still there. The land had curved. The road had lied. The desert had brought me back. Because I wasn't done. Because it needed fire, not flight. I parked by the pumps. My heart was pounding. I looked at the token. It buzzed in my hand. I remembered the voice from the payphone. Hank's wife, or what was left of her. Throw it in the flames. There was no fire, but there was gas. Thousands of gallons under the concrete. I popped the fuel lines. I jammed the nozzles. I soaked the pavement. I found a battery in Hank's watch, made a short circuit with a paperclip, wrapped it in a gas-soaked rag. I had maybe 30 seconds. I drove to the edge of the highway. I turned and watched. Then it ignited. A white-blue flash. A roar that shook the glass. One pump exploded. Then another. Then another. Bone and fire rained down. The roof caved. The neon coyote sign burst like a dying star. And in the firelight I saw them. The skinwalkers. Screaming. Melting. Ash rising like smoke signals into the sky. I held the token. It vibrated. I stepped forward. "No more," I whispered, and threw it into the flames. The explosion was silent. A flash of blue fire that pierced the sky like a needle into God's eye. The spirits vanished. The pumps cracked open. And the desert went still. I drove east. Never looked back. The ashes of Coyote Fuel and Go glowing in my mirror. 1 week later, I picked up my brother from rehab. He said he dreamed of Mom again. But this time she was smiling. Not warning. Just smiling. I thought burning it all would be the end. Fire has a way of feeling final. Explosions, screaming spirits, collapsing roofs, hell. I watched bone pumps turn to ash under blue flame. But the desert isn't a place that lets go. It remembers. The desert doesn't forget. It waits. That's what my grandmother used to say, and now I finally understand. A week after the fire, I was 500 miles away, waking up in a crappy motel room in California. My brother Danny was asleep on the other bed, breathing easy for the first time in years. I should have felt safe, clean, free. But every night I'd hear it again. The ring, the payphone, shrill and wet like something calling from underwater. I'd wake up gasping, the sound still echoing in my skull. I told myself it was PTSD, that I'd hallucinated the worst of it. But then the pictures started coming. Not to my phone, not to email. Actual printed Polaroids slipped under my motel door. The first showed the Coyote Fuel and Go, but it wasn't burned. It looked untouched. The pumps were clean. The sign was glowing, as if the fire had never happened. The second photo was worse. Me, sleeping, in the exact position I'd woken up in, and on the back scrawled in shaky blue ink, "We're not done." My blood turned cold. I didn't tell Danny. He'd just gotten clean. I couldn't drop this on him. But the next night it escalated. I went to the vending machine outside. When I came back, the TV in the room was on. Static. Volume maxed out. And Danny was still asleep, unmoving, drenched in sweat. I killed the power. The image flickered. For half a second, the screen showed a gas station aisle. Our gas station. Hank was standing at the register, smiling like he never died. His mouth didn't move, but I heard it in my head. "Once you feed the desert, you belong to it." I threw the remote. The screen shattered. Danny didn't wake up until morning. I told him it was just a power surge. But deep down I knew. The curse wasn't gone. It had followed me. You can destroy the station. You can destroy the pumps. But you can't destroy the pact. That's what the voice on the phone had said. And now it made sense. I wasn't the first. I wasn't even the chosen one. I was just next. One night, unable to sleep, I drove alone. No GPS, just instinct. And the road stretched endlessly, pulling me into a desert I didn't recognize. Hours passed. Gas ran low. Then there it was. On the horizon, a new station. Not Coyote Fuel and Go, but something eerily familiar. Same shape, same lights, same flicker in the sign. Different name, Red Moon Services. And standing at pump 4, a man in a hoodie. Slumped. Still. I pulled over. Got out. The air felt wrong. Heavy. The smell of old blood mixed with dust and gasoline. I approached the man. He turned. And it was me. My own face. Same scar on the chin. Same tired eyes. But his were empty. Black pits. He whispered, "You didn't break the curse. You passed it on." Then he vanished. I was alone. I looked down. A clay token sat where he'd stood. Same shape, same symbols. It pulsed in my palm. Hot. Alive. I drove back to the motel in silence. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't the next either. On the third night, Danny disappeared. No note. No trace. Just his shoes by the door and the faint smell of smoke. I searched for him everywhere. Filed a report. Cops shrugged. Adults disappear all the time, they said. But they didn't smell the air. They didn't see the Polaroid left on my pillow. Danny, chained to pump 4. Behind him the bone pillars, the shadows, the watchers. The caption read, "He wasn't enough." I snapped. I drove east, straight back into the desert. I didn't stop until I ran out of gas. I walked the rest of the way. The moon hung above me like a judgment. Then in the distance, I saw firelight. But not destruction. A circle of torches. A ceremony. A new station. Same bones. Same shadows. Same curse. A woman in white approached me. Her eyes were yellow. Her voice was smooth. "It doesn't end with you, Miguel. It begins with you." I collapsed. When I woke up, I was in a motel, alone, covered in dirt. The Polaroid was gone, but etched into my forearm as if burned into the skin were the same Navajo symbols. I was the new keeper, the next Hank. And deep down, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. The fire didn't destroy the deal. It activated it, made it mobile, viral. Everywhere I went, the signs followed. Gas stations with no attendants, pumps that bled, customers with too many teeth, payphones that rang when no one else was around. Each one a node, a point on a map drawn in blood and bone. I wasn't escaping. I was spreading it. And that's when the final truth hit me. The desert isn't a place. It's a pattern, a design, a hunger that found a way to grow. The only way to stop it, burn every station, every token, every trace. But even that might not be enough. Because if you're hearing this, watching this, reading this, the curse has already found you. And one day soon you'll stop for gas. Late at night, out in the middle of nowhere. And the bell above the door won't jingle. And the payphone will ring. And you'll remember this moment too late as your last warning. I used to believe that fire was a purifier. That whatever ancient sickness had rooted itself into the bones of Coyote Fuel and Go could be cauterized, burned out, erased. But I was wrong. Fire doesn't kill gods. It wakes them up. It signals something older. Something waiting. Something watching. I left the desert behind me. But the desert didn't leave me. It stayed embedded in my mind and my blood like fine red dust you can't ever fully wash off. Every road trip, every midnight gas stop, I'd feel eyes. Not eyes in the mirrors, eyes in the silence. In the shadows behind the pumps. Watching, judging, waiting. They never move, never blink. Just stare. Like they're measuring you. Like they already know if you're prey or predator. And lately I felt them getting closer. Not metaphorically, literally. I walk past alleyways and catch glints of yellow in the dark. I hear the bell above a gas station door jingle when there's no one there. And worse, I've begun to see symbols, those same damn Navajo markings etched into places they don't belong. Restroom mirrors, back walls of diners carved into trees along the highway. And with them comes the smell. You know it if you've smelled it once, burnt meat and spoiled gasoline. Something dead pretending to be alive. The Watchers aren't just real. They're active now. Since the fire, the pack's geography has changed. The gas station was never the source. It was a choke point. A valve. When I broke it, I didn't sever the line. I uncapped it. Now the curse is flowing, leaking across the land like oil from a cracked tank. At first I tried warning people. But you can't explain this kind of thing in a YouTube comment or a Reddit post. Hey, if your local gas station plays Navajo chants and refuses to sell Slim Jims after midnight run, that doesn't land. They think it's a meme. They laugh. Until their pumps start leaking black fluid. Until they get a phone call from someone who's been dead for 20 years. Until they look into the bathroom mirror and see something watching from behind their reflection. I've gotten messages, DMs, emails. One kid from Texas sent me a voicemail. He'd found a cassette tape in his dad's garage labeled Track 3. He played it out of curiosity. Said it made him feel like he was being watched. Next day, his car wouldn't start. The air inside the vehicle smelled like blood. He hasn't answered since. The watchers don't just appear in one place anymore. They are traveling now. They're in the wires, in the music, in the dreams. That's the part that scares me most. They're using our memories like GPS, like sonar. If you know about them, if you even think about them too long, they notice. They track the vibration of fear, like sharks sniffing blood and water. If you're listening to this, you may already be in their radius. You may feel them behind you. And if you do, don't turn around. Not yet. Because the moment you see them is the moment they decide whether you're food or a vessel. And honestly, lately I can't tell which is worse. One night, 3 months after I burned Coyote Fuel and Go, I was driving through New Mexico. Empty stretch of desert. Nothing but flat land and moonlight. My gas light came on. I had no choice. I pulled into a station. Didn't recognize the name. Didn't matter. But I knew. The second I stepped inside, something in the air felt off, thick, too still. Like sound had been sucked out. The clerk didn't say a word. He just stared at me. Didn't blink, didn't move. His smile was too wide, his teeth too sharp. I bought nothing, just walked out. But when I got back in the car, my phone buzzed. One new photo. No sender, just a shot of me. Standing at the pump. Except I hadn't stood there. The timestamp was 10 minutes into the future. I threw the phone into the back seat. Peeled out. Never looked back. But I know the truth now. I didn't find that place. It found me. And the watchers inside it were measuring me. Not ready to take me. Not yet. But getting closer. The watchers are no longer bound to burial grounds or bone totems. They're unmoored. Hungry. They don't wait for offerings anymore. They choose them. They don't need Hank. They don't need keepers. They've figured out the algorithm. That's the craziest part. They know how to hide in the places we never look. Not under the bed. Not in the closet. But in the comments section. In the static of a TikTok. In the silence between tracks on a playlist. They feed on clicks. On fear. On attention. So I stopped posting. I stopped talking. But it didn't help. Because once you've seen them, once you've been touched by the pact you are marked, you don't get to walk away. You don't get to go back to normal. And trust me, I've tried. Therapy doesn't work when your nightmares bleed into reality. Medication dulls the fear, but it doesn't block the signal. They still find you. They always do. I tried warning Danny. Before he vanished. Before they took him. I told him to stop listening to the chant. To stop looking for answers. But he couldn't. Curiosity is what they want. That need to know. That's the hook. That's how they get in. The watchers wait for your questions. Then they answer with ruin. And here's the last thing I'll ever say on this: if you ever find yourself alone late at night, and you hear something outside your window, even if you're on the second floor, even if you live in the middle of a city, don't open the blinds. Don't answer the knock. And if your phone starts ringing, and the caller ID says unknown, and the voice on the other end says, Miguel Reyes broke the pact, hang up, block it, burn it, run, because the watchers are still waiting. And this time, they're not looking for keepers, they're looking for witnesses. And you just became one. You can't bury something that was never truly dead. That's what I've come to learn. You can torch a building, shatter bones, melt steel, but curses don't burn. They cling, they drift, and they wait for you to breathe them in. For a week after I burned Coyote Fuel and Go, I thought I'd won. I thought I'd broken the chain, but what I really did was light the fuse. The explosion didn't end the story. It turned the story into a signal. A flare sent up into the desert sky, calling everything that sleeps beneath the rock to wake. I started seeing the signs almost immediately. Not just me, people on forums, on Reddit, on Discord horror servers, even no sleep. The same keywords popped up again and again. Black fluid, yellow eyes, the chant, and always the gas stations. Different places, different names, same bones beneath the floor. That's when I realized Coyote Fuel and Go wasn't unique. It was a franchise. Not the corporate kind, not a chain in the business sense, but in the blood sense. A network of cursed locations, each one tied to the same pact. The Watchers aren't tied to one location anymore. They're syndicated. And the worst part, I think they're multiplying. See, the fire should have destroyed everything. It didn't. Something survived. I saw it in the rearview mirror that night, just for a second. A figure. Thin. Watching from the flames. Eyes like dying stars. It wasn't Hank. It was something older. Something that remembered when the first pump was built, not to sell gas, but to drain souls. For weeks, I avoided sleep. Avoided mirrors. Avoided music. Especially that damn chant. But you can't run forever. Fear has a gravity to it. And the more you resist, the harder it pulls. Then one night the power went out. My apartment went black. My phone died even though it was charging. The only thing still working was the boombox. I don't own a boombox. I never bought one. I didn't even have a cassette. But there it was, in the middle of the room, playing track 3, the chant, slower, lower, like it was older than tape itself. I didn't listen. I smashed the box with a hammer. That's when the phone rang. Landline. I don't have one. The voice on the other end was a woman. Calm. Cold. She said, "Burning one station only delays the tide." I asked who she was. She said I was like you. Once. Before I became part of the system. Then she whispered coordinates. A location in Nevada. Then she said, "You know what to do." The call went dead. I should have ignored it. But I couldn't. You don't outrun this kind of nightmare. You end it, or you become it. So I went. I followed the coordinates. The place was real. Desert stretch just off Route 93. Looked abandoned. Cracked pumps, broken lights, no signage, no name. But the layout, it was identical. Same booth, same back room, same mirror. I stood outside the booth and knew instantly it was active. I saw the shadow move across the glass. I smelled the rot. The Watchers were there, still feeding, still waiting. I knew what I had to do. I broke into the back room. The air was thick, oily, and on the table, another clay coyote. Same markings, different color. This one was blackened like it had been burned before. It pulsed in my hand, like it was breathing, like it knew me. There was a gas tank in the storage room, old, rusty, still full. I didn't hesitate. I doused the place, every wall, every inch. I left the totem in the center of the room and lit a match. I watched as the fire swallowed it whole. And for a second I swear I heard it scream. Not the fire, the building, like it had lungs, like it knew it was dying. As I backed away, I saw them, figures in the smoke, tall, wrong, watching. They didn't move, didn't chase, just stood there, and one by one, they began to burn. Eyes flaring yellow then white. Not rage, release. That's when it clicked. The Watchers weren't the ones hunting. They were the ones trapped, bound, used. Same as Hank, same as the others. The stations don't feed them. They feed something else, something deeper, something we still haven't seen. And I'd just broken another link in the chain. Not all of it, but enough. The road back was quiet. No phone calls, no static, just the wind and the hum of the engine. But I knew the fight wasn't over. It's a network, not a nest. Every time I burn one, the others shift, like spiders rearranging a web. But I'm learning. Each station has a totem. Each totem is a lock. Fire is the key. I've started keeping a map, coordinates, reports, pins in a wall like a serial killer's basement, because that's what it takes. You have to go full crazy to destroy real evil. I've burned 3 now, and each time I feel them pull away, weaker, fainter. I'm getting closer to the source, and I'm not stopping, because if someone doesn't finish what I started, this thing's gonna spread. And next time it won't be some forgotten gas stop in the desert. It'll be your neighborhood QT, your 24/7 shell, your local AM/PM. And when that black fluid starts leaking from pump 4 and the clerk tells you the jerky's off limits after midnight, you'll remember this story. You'll know it's already too late. So if you're watching this, if this video finds you before they do, know this: I'm not the hero. I'm just the guy with the matches. And I'm lighting the fuse 1 pump at a time. It didn't die in the fire. It just changed shape. That was the first thing I wrote in my notebook after the 4th station. And I say station like it was a physical place, but the truth is more complicated. The moment I thought I'd broken the chain, I realized I was looking at a hydra. Cut off one head, 2 more grow. These weren't just cursed pit stops in the desert. They were conduits. Ritual sites disguised as roadside convenience. The fire didn't cleanse. It released something older, something smarter, something that learns. In the weeks that followed, reports began to surface. Not on the news, no mainstream network would touch this, but in the spaces where the real stories live. Niche horror subs, deep Reddit threads, voice memos sent to dead email accounts. They spoke of gas stations popping up overnight. No construction, no records, no branding. Just there. Like they'd always been. One girl in Utah posted about a place called Coyote East. She swore it wasn't there the week before, but now it had pumps, lights, and a single clerk who didn't speak. Just smiled. Always smiled. She asked for jerky. He pointed to the closed sign. She asked about the payphone. He just grinned wider. That night she dreamed in static. Woke up with dried blood under her nose and the number 4:17 a.m. burned into her phone screen. She hadn't set an alarm. They're spreading through memory, I wrote next. Not geography. And I think that's the key. These places don't exist on maps. They exist in our heads. Our stories. Every time one of us tells the tale, records, a podcast uploads, a TikTok shares, a real gas station horror short on YouTube, we're feeding it. Giving it shape. It's no longer just a haunting. It's a format. A genre. A self-replicating digital curse. And I know how insane that sounds. But I've lived it. I've seen it adapt. The 5th station wasn't even physical. It was a live stream. I got an invite in my inbox, no subject line, no sender. Just a link. It opened to a live feed of an empty gas station. Static crackled in the background. Every few minutes the camera glitched. When it came back, things had shifted. The pumps moved. The door swung open. A figure appeared. No face, just a silhouette behind the glass. Then the chat lit up. Did y'all see that, bro? This isn't a prank. Where is this one comment stuck with me? It said, "This is how it spreads now. Through attention." That's when I understood. The curse didn't need places anymore. It needed platforms. It didn't want blood. It wanted eyeballs, views, watch time. It had become algorithmic, viral, engineered for the attention economy. Coyote Fuel and Go was just the beta test. Now it's in V2.0, location-free, infinitely scalable, content-friendly horror. I logged out, deleted the email, burned the laptop. But the dream came anyway. I was back in the booth. Only now the glass was gone. No barrier, no protection. Just me and the pumps. They pulsed with light, not fire, but LED blue. I turned around and Hank was there, still alive, still smiling. But behind his eyes, a screen flickered. The desert went digital, he said. You helped it. I woke up screaming, cold sweat, no lights. The boombox sat at the foot of the bed again. This time it wasn't playing track 3. It was playing me. My voice. From a podcast interview I did months ago. I yanked the plug, but the audio kept going. He burned the station down, my voice said. But some things don't end with fire. Some things just reboot. That's when I knew it wasn't just following me. It had become me. My voice, my stories, my digital fingerprints. I'd been tagged, indexed, added to the feed. Now wherever I went, the signs followed. The black liquid didn't leak from pumps anymore. It leaked from headphones, from phone speakers, from comment sections that started with, "Is this real?" and ended with, "I saw it too." And the watchers. They weren't just skinwalkers now. They were screenwalkers. Echoes behind your reflection. Shadows in your FaceTime feed. Glitches that whisper when you scroll past horror shorts at 3 a.m. You think they're fake. ARGs, creepypasta. You like, you share, you subscribe. And in doing so, you open the door. I've tracked at least 7 digital stations now, each tied to some form of viral media. A cursed TikTok account that only posts at 4:17 a.m. A YouTube channel that loops gas pump footage but adds one new watcher each day. A Spotify playlist that adds a new chant every week, and if you play it backwards, it whispers your name. Every upload is an offering I wrote. Every view feeds the fire. And the craziest part? The algorithm loves it. It boosts horror like this. The high retention. The deep engagement. People watch till the end because they have to know. Because they think if they reach the last second, they'll be safe. But that's the trick. The moment you finish, you've already let it in. So I'm telling you now, not as a survivor, but as someone who's still sinking. Stop feeding it. Stop watching. Stop sharing. Or at least understand what you're giving it. Not just attention. Not just time. Your permission. Because this curse isn't in the ground anymore. It's in the cloud. It's in your feed. And the next time your phone buzzes at 2:00 a.m. with an unknown caller, don't answer. Because it's not a prank. It's not fiction. It's not some haunted gas station story for clout. It's real. It's here. And it's listening. Legacies aren't passed down anymore. They're uploaded. That sentence hit me while I was staring into the flickering blue light of my motel room TV tuned to static. I hadn't slept in 2 days. Not after what I saw at the last Coyote outpost. The desert used to be the burial ground. Now it's the cloud. The curse isn't just ancient, it's been upgraded. And I've realized something even more terrifying than being hunted. I've become part of the ritual. I'm no longer just the witness. I'm the narrator. I'm the one passing the flame whether I want to or not. When Hank's wife, if that voice even belonged to someone human anymore, told me burn it all, I thought she meant the gas station, the pumps, the Coyote token. But what she really meant was the pattern, the cycle, the legacy. I didn't just destroy one feeding post. I destroyed a node in a network. And networks root around damage. When you break one ritual, the desert just writes a new one. And this new version, it's smarter. Less fire, more frictionless. Less blood, more bandwidth. One night I started tracking metadata from a viral horror podcast. They'd covered the Coyote Fuel and Go incident, called it a modern skinwalker myth. I didn't talk to them. I didn't feed it. I just listened. Episode 3 ended with a subtle change in the background hum. A low chant, faint, familiar. Track 3. I scrubbed the waveform, reversed it, layered it over white noise from the boombox I'd stolen before the explosion. It matched. Exactly. That podcast wasn't reporting the curse. It had become the next altar. I kept digging. YouTube horror narrators doing gas station horror compilation videos. One guy had 10 million views. His thumbnail, a coyote under red neon eyes glowing. The voiceover perfectly dramatic, punchy. Even the timestamps were eerie. 2:10 a.m., 3:17 a.m., 4:17 a.m. All my timestamps. All the markers from my journal. They weren't inspiration. They were instructions. This is how they keep the fire alive, I realized. Not through worship, through exposure. Not by hiding the curse in some forgotten place, but by making it go viral. It's not a haunted location anymore. It's a haunted format, a haunted trend. Then came the merch. Hoodies that read "No jerky for yellow eyes." Mugs that said "Track 3 or die." People were laughing, quoting the rules like it was a game. dressing like Hank for Halloween, making prank calls to gas stations at 4:17 a.m. to see if the phone would ring. They didn't understand. The rules weren't lore. They were containment. And now they were broken wide open. I returned to the site, or where it used to be. Coyote Fuel and Go was gone, of course. Just ash and scorched gravel. But someone had erected a roadside marker. Not official. Just a wooden sign carved with the phrase, "Where the offering burned." People had started leaving trinkets, coyote plushies, toy gas pumps, cassette tapes. There was a QR code nailed to the post. I scanned it. It led to a Spotify playlist. Guess what was track 3? That was the moment I knew. I didn't destroy the ritual. I rebranded it. And now it was spreading faster than ever. Gas station horror was a whole niche now. A monetized tag, YouTube shorts, TikTok filters, VR experiences. And the weirdest part? It worked better when people didn't believe. Skepticism is fuel. Doubt is kindling. The moment you think it's fiction, you lower your guard, and that's when it slips in. So I tried to fight back. Not with fire, not with salt, but with truth. I uploaded my full account. No edits, no polish, no intro music. Just me shaking, telling every detail. No drama, just data. I uploaded it to the Internet Archive. No ads, no tracking. I posted the link to obscure forums. I begged people, don't like, don't share, don't comment. Just listen, and walk away. It got 43 views. That's it. Meanwhile, a reaction video to a TikTok labeled "I spent a night at Coyote Fuel and Go" hit 7 million in 2 days. The guy never even went to Arizona. He just used a green screen. "The desert doesn't forget," he said. Then he winked. Added reverb. And the comments, "I want to go there so bad. Imagine working that shift. This better be real." They didn't know it, but they were chanting. Repeating the names, giving the shape. They were writing the next chapter. And the curse. It was taking notes. I started noticing things. Repeating symbols on unrelated channels. Videos with identical metadata posted at the same time. Clips where background noises formed a chant if you layered them. All pointing to something big. Not another station, but a convergence. A viral ritual. A mass feeding event scheduled, coordinated. Through collabs, through countdowns, through premieres. It's no longer enough to survive the gas station. Now you have to survive the algorithm. And me, I'm tired. But I'm also the last firewall. I know too much. I've seen too far behind the curtain. I can't burn the desert again, but maybe I can bury the name. If you're watching this, reading this, listening to this, it means it's already out. So here's the final rule. 1. Hank never told me. The one I had to write myself. If you say the name, say it only once. Never repeat it. Not out loud. Not in text. Not in tags. Not in the comments. Because if the curse had a URL, it'd be your search bar. If it had a prayer, it'd be your autoplay. If it had a shrine, it'd be your screen. So next time you see a horror story titled "Real Gas Station Experience," or "Don't Answer the Phone at 4:17 a.m., remember this. You're not watching the story. You're feeding it. You're not escaping it. You're extending it. That's the last thing I wrote in my notebook before I tore the pages out and set them on fire behind a 7-Eleven in Barstow. I'd driven through 3 states with no sleep, no plan, and no gas station stops. I pissed in bottles, ate from vending machines, and turned off my phone. I did everything I could to sever the thread between me and what I thought I'd left burning in the desert. But threads don't sever. They stretch. And eventually, they pull back. Hard. After I uploaded my warning, I expected silence. I thought maybe for once the truth would just die in the noise. But the views didn't matter. The echo did. One guy mirrored the file to Reddit. Another cut it into clips and dropped it into reaction videos. A girl stitched my voice over creepy night drive footage on TikTok. And every time someone heard the rules, said them out loud. No jerky for yellow eyes. Track 3. Never answer the phone, it spread. It didn't weaken. It adapted. Then I started hearing it. Not in the desert, not in my dreams, in the real world. At a rest stop outside Needles, a little girl was singing it under her breath to her brother. Track 3, make it go away. In a gas station bathroom in Nevada, someone had scrawled in Sharpie, "You're the offering." And at a dusty Crossroads motel in Utah, the payphone rang. It shouldn't have existed. It was fused shut with rust. But it rang. 3 times. Then silence. This isn't a curse anymore. It's a script. One we're all acting out. The scary part isn't that the desert remembers. It's that the internet doesn't forget. You can't burn pixels. You can't salt a server. And you can't outrun what's been downloaded into 1 million devices, echoed in 1,000 reactions, and whispered like a bedtime story disguised as content. I realized that what Hank had built wasn't just a trap. It was a template. And we're the new Hank. Every share, every comment. Every time we say this story gave me chills, we're reinforcing the pattern. And the final rule. The one no one talks about, it's this. Never repeat the ritual. But never let it die. Because either way, you're feeding something. There's a reason the chant is track 3. Not 1, not 2. It waits. It bides its time. It lets you get comfortable. Lures you into the rhythm of the night, shift the flickering lights, the feeling of safety behind bulletproof glass. It makes you believe in patterns. Then it strikes. Not when you're scared, when you're numb. So here's what I learned on my last night, the true final night, before I torched my name off every database I could find. Before I walked off-grid into the mountains with nothing but a flashlight and a tape recorder. The rules change, but the game stays the same. That's why the payphone still rings. That's why the yellow-eyed woman keeps coming back in different forms. That's why even after I burned the pumps, they found another outpost. You can't stop it by destroying the location. You stop it by ending the transmission. I went back one last time. Not to the gas station, to the origin. The place I traced through deed records and tribal lore. The place Hank's grandfather first made the deal. A sacred site desecrated. A bluff overlooking 3 rivers. The stories say it was a gateway, a place where the veil between worlds was thin enough to whisper through. I climbed it alone, and I brought one thing, the last working copy of the chant. Track 3, copied to reel tape, analog and untraceable. I played it. Not to summon. To seal. Let them hear it, the voice had told me once. But only once. Then bury it deep. The wind howled like it remembered the words. The tape warbled as the chant echoed over stone. And then I buried it. 6 feet under the roots of a twisted juniper. I poured salt in the hole. I snapped the reel in half. You won't forget. But you won't repeat. That's the only piece I get now. So if you're hearing this, if somehow my words have slipped into your recommended feed, your late-night rabbit hole, your favorite horror channel, don't engage. Don't search. Don't scroll. You're not curious. You're bait. The desert still listens. And now it has broadband. And if you've already broken that rule, if you've already said the name twice, if you've already heard the chant more than once, then listen carefully. Don't go back. Don't return to the place you heard it. It doesn't live in the location anymore. It lives in repetition, in familiarity, in nostalgia. That feeling you get when a story feels just familiar enough to be true. That's not recognition. That's infection. I said there was a final rule. Here it is. Burn this file. Not literally destroy the data. Don't post it. Don't quote it. Don't dissect it for content. Delete the source. Smash the phone. Cut the wire. Make this the last view. Because if it survives, if this story goes one viral loop too far, then the next Coyote Fuel and Go won't be in the desert. It'll be in your town, on your street, in your backyard, and the figure with yellow eyes won't walk through the door. It'll crawl out of your screen. Stories are rituals, and every view is a prayer. Pray the algorithm forgets this one. Some say the scariest thing isn't ghosts or monsters. It's how people choose to ignore the truth. We believe that if we don't look, don't listen, don't speak the name, it doesn't exist. But darkness doesn't vanish when you close your eyes. It just moves closer. As I drove away from Arizona past nameless towns and faded billboards, I realized something I hadn't dared to admit. Through 7 sleepless nights, every story is a loop. And if you don't break it, you become part of it. Coyote Fuel and Go may have burned to ash. Those white bone pumps may have turned to dust. But I know, and now you know, that what was sealed wasn't just a place. It was attention, belief, fear that feeds and tells stories in circles. People like Hank aren't guardians. They're scriptwriters. They set the rules, write the rituals, then step back to watch who becomes the next offering with one click of "I accept." You watch this far. That means you've already fed it. I don't need to know where you are, who you are, or what you're doing. If you feel a cold spot on your back, if you think you just heard someone breathing behind you, it's not coincidence. You're not being watched. You're being mirrored. Every screen is a mirror. And what you watch long enough learns how to step through. But don't get me wrong. I didn't tell you all this to scare you. I don't want you afraid. I want you to face it. Because fear makes us retreat. Truth makes us sharp. And being sharp is the only thing that stops places like Coyote Fuel and Go from happening again. Not in reality. Not in your head. Not in your sleep. You know what kept me from going insane. It wasn't courage. It wasn't strength. It was the fact that I rewrote the story. I didn't let it end in blood and sacrifice. I didn't let Hank write the final scene. I took back the right to say, this is the stop. This is the finale. And you have that right too. In an age where everything is content, we forget that we're not just the audience. We choose which stories keep living. You share it, it grows. You go silent, it fades. You ask more questions, it opens the next door. But if you say, enough, if you hit the brakes, if you do the one thing Hank never dared to do, end it, then you win. Not all monsters need a fight to die. Some just need you to refuse to play the role. This story has no power if no one retells it. It can't come back if no one listens. Stories live when someone listens. Monsters grow when someone feeds them. So, I'll say this one last time and you'll decide whether it lives or not. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a survivor. I was the one who chose to end it. I burned the bone-white pumps. I deleted the source file. I wiped all traces from every system. No links, no photos, just the story and you. If you're shaking, if you feel the need to dig deeper, if you're about to search track 3 boombox Navajo chant, don't. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to resist the lure. You don't need to know more, because the truth isn't in the story. It's in what you do after hearing it. Go live. Laugh in the face of the dark. Turn your back when it begs you to spread it. And if you need one last line to carry with you to remind you that you control the ending, then remember this. You're not the bait. You are the period. Some horror stories aren't just about monsters. They're mirrors. And the most terrifying ones? They reflect us, our habits, our silence, the way we let routine become ritual, even when it leads to self-destruction. What happened to Migs at Coyote Fuel and Go wasn't just about skinwalkers or haunted pumps. It was about someone trapped in a cycle working night shifts that eat the soul, staying quiet when rules don't make sense, keeping secrets for the sake of money, loyalty, or survival. Sound familiar? We've all had our gas station moments, jobs we hate but keep showing up to, toxic people we tolerate because we feel indebted, systems that use us and convince us we're lucky just to be inside them. And like Migs, we tell ourselves it's only 7 days. I can make it through this. But the truth is, the longer you stay in a place that feeds on you, the harder it is to leave before you're fully consumed. Migs wasn't weak. He was strong in all the wrong ways, strong enough to endure pain, strong enough to ignore red flags, strong enough to carry someone else's burden for too long. And that's a trap too many of us fall into. We think strength means silence, that being tough means never saying, "This is killing me." But real strength, it's saying no. It's choosing to burn the place down, not literally but metaphorically, walking away from what drains you, even if it pays well. Choosing peace over pressure, sanity over salary. And sometimes we don't leave until it's almost too late, until the lights flicker, until the phone rings, those signs we keep ignoring. A late-night panic attack, a friend's worried voice, a body that won't stop aching. Those are our warnings. That's our version of track 3 on the boombox. It's the universe saying you're bleeding something invisible. You need to stop. And like the clay token Migs held the symbol of his control, we all hold something that anchors us to the pain. For some it's guilt. For others it's pride. For many it's fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of not finding something better. Fear of what happens if we stop feeding the monster and it turns on us. But here's the lesson. Coyote Fuel and Go gives us beneath the desert dust and the supernatural dread. The monster only lives if you let it. You are not fuel. You're not an offering. You're the one who gets to choose the ending. And even if you were chosen by life, by circumstances, by family history, it doesn't mean you have to stay chosen. You can break the cycle. You can be the one who says, "I've had enough." You can walk away from the job that kills your spirit even if it pays $30 an hour. You can stop protecting people who wouldn't do the same for you. You can say, "I won't be your keeper. I won't be your fuel. I'm done feeding what hurts me." And sure, it's scary. Migs didn't know if the truck would start. He didn't know if the fire would work. But he tried anyway. That's all life ever asks of us, to try. To move when everything says freeze. To speak when the rules say be quiet. To fight not because we're sure of the outcome, but because we're sure we matter. So if you're watching this and something inside you stirs, listen to it. Ask yourself what in your life feels like Coyote Fuel and Go. What's your night shift that no longer makes sense? Who's your Hank? Someone who smiles while chaining you to something ancient and hungry. And more importantly, what would burning it down look like for you? It might mean having a hard conversation. Resigning from a job that looks good on paper but shreds your soul. Telling a friend or partner that the rules they've set aren't yours to follow. Turning down something easy because it comes with too high a price. Whatever it is, let this story remind you, you have the power to light the match. And when you do, you'll feel what Migs felt driving away from the flames, not just relief, but clarity. A life saved. A legacy interrupted. A loop broken. Now, if this story spoke to you, if you saw yourself in that booth watching shadows move just outside the glass, then don't keep it to yourself. Because maybe someone you know is on their third night at their own station, just trying to survive long enough to pay the bills, justifying the monsters because they think it's the cost of loyalty or strength. Share this video with them. Let it be the boombox chant they didn't know they needed. Save it for the next time you forget what your own freedom sounds like. Leave a comment below and tell me what's your version of the gas station. The job, the person, the secret you're done feeding. And if you want more stories that don't just chill your bones but sharpen your instincts, subscribe. Because horror isn't just about fear. It's about survival. It's about truth dressed in shadows. And sometimes the scariest story is the one that finally sets you free. The monsters won't stop, but you can stop feeding them. That's the real power. That's the real ending. And it starts with you.